Hey guys, we are going to be returning back to the soap I am usage testing this month, maybe a little bit farther into December as well. I need to remember to measure this guy for weight, but I just can't. I spent like 10 days away from my scale, and so I couldn't measure it then, and now I just keep forgetting. Fine Santal Absolut, fine accoutrements. Soap, wonderful soap base. Unfortunately, they are closing their doors only as far as the hard soap goes. That formulation has been made in a certain place in Germany, I just read this week, and that place was owned by a parent company. They produced lots of different soaps for different other big companies, other big retailers, and they just kind of ran out of money. And so they had to close that facility down. And so Fine has had to rethink. He did get some warning, and so he is going to be pushing out a new soap. Now, if my brain remembers correctly, I think it was on the order of a few months from now, maybe even by the end of the year. I can't remember exactly what the write-up said. But I have placed my orders on a few of the different vendors to buy some of those pucks just in case the new soap he brings around is too much like all the other stuff out there and less like what he was producing a while back. But all the best for him and his company. Nacet, again, today. The card says 355 is today's shave count. That is what will be after today. I did take a shower just before the shave. Here's the Nacet. There's the little dots that can help identify it. And I usually bend it back so you can see the glinting on the place where I dropped the blade 130 uses ago. All right. So we'll put that in the razor. I'm just going to check it. I dropped it the other day, but it was just dropped by itself and not with a top cap or anything like that attached to it, and so there was nothing to apply force to the blade, and so it looks like everything's fine. Setting today, let's stick with the 4. That's worked pretty well in the past, and this is my Rhodium Fat Boy. It was replated by a previous owner in Rhodium, and then black Rhodium. The dark places are black Rhodium, and I think it's really cool. My first purchase of a custom. I didn't have it made custom for myself, but I do now own one that is custom plated. And then the B2 brush from Zenith. Been talking lately to my friend HD Shaves. He has his own YouTube channel, and he was having some trouble with the B2. His lathers would just kind of wash out, and I've definitely had that happen to in my own shaves. I don't know if it was with the B2 or not, but I have had that happen, and what I figured out was that it was either the water in my goatee would kind of leak out into the lather and wash it out, or that wasn't a problem for him because he doesn't wear a goatee, or there was maybe some water in the brush, in the core of the brush. And while he was working his lather up, he wasn't maybe pressing and splaying enough to get that deep water into the lather. And then when he was working it on his face, he was pressing enough to bring that water into the picture. And so it released onto his face. I'm just guessing. He's a very, very competent shaver. And so I didn't need to recommend any of the basic stuff. And a responsible shaver, because he took that very same brush, he sent it to somebody who was very skilled in just wet shaving and lathering and things like that, and he did not have a problem with it at all. So we believe that the brush is not the issue at all, and so he may have figured something out by now. But I figured, hey, in honor of him, and I don't know if it's going to help him at all, but we'll shave with the B2. Again today. I really, really like the B2. It's got a big handle. It is so soft on my face. It's got an easy splay. It does not have stiff bristles. They're comfortable, but I can stir up any soap that I want with it. So it's not floppy. And this is even young. It's going to get even softer as more of the tips split. So it's a win, 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 win for me. And I'm sure it's going to do fine with the fine Accoutrements soap. All right, I believe that all the equipment's ready. So let's go ahead and load up the soap. He maybe thought that he left a little bit too much water in the brush, so that was going to be one of the things that he was thinking about, because if you soak this, it does really hold quite a bit of water. So I'd shaken it out my kind of normal amount, and then this is a puck that was used, I don't know, 3 days ago, so it is slightly moist, but you know, it's not hard. All right, with fine and some other brushes, 15 seconds of loading is all I need to do. With this guy, maybe the same. Maybe that would be the same. Let's just overshoot if we need to and do 20 seconds. And 5 is going to roll. Okay, so 15 is right there, so we'll go to 35. And just easy splay, easy pressure. Oh, and this time is moving fast. And I think that might be it. I think that's 20 seconds. I got a hair right here. Now let me think. I started on 15, not 25, right? Yeah, so there we go. All right, so this may be of help to him. I don't remember what soap base he was using. It was a good soap. It was a reliable soap. He knows his quality soaps. So you can see I did spill. There's a little bit of wet, kind of sudsy stuff that did overflow, but we're not talking a lot of stuff in the cup. And that is what it looks like on the brush. So there we go. And then I sometimes like to take the stuff that's on the side of the cup. Of course, this time, and right now we're just using it for the scent, just getting the scent to my nose, because I just washed my face in the shower, and so I don't need to break up those oils again. All right, so let's start working up the lather. Now, HD Shaves is similar to me in the way he likes his brushes. And I believe we might share some similar razor preferences. I don't think he's one of those that loves the super aggressive razors and I also stay away from those, but I could be wrong. I've seen some of his videos, but I have not seen enough to know for sure about that. But I believe that he face lathers more than I do. And so when he asked for some advice, I had to give him bowl lathering advice, kind of only. I'm just not as experienced in the face lathering to give any kind of advice. All right, so we'll just go ahead and do 2 teaspoons of water. Something that happened with this brush that was very interesting. I guess it was the 2019 austere August. And I was using this very brush for the entire month of August. And I was using Chiseled Face because I was participating in a Chiseled Face challenge. Loved it. Chose this brush because it needed more work, and I hadn't seen a whole lot of Zenith brushes in my particular area of the internet. Guys using them, things like that. So I wanted to let people know how good they were. So those are 2 teaspoons, and you can see kind of what lather we have built up. And I'm not doing anything different to this brush. I'm not altering my method or anything, I don't believe. Let's go ahead and do another teaspoon. So as he searches for how to work his face lathering skills, I wish him well. I told him to get back with me if he ever figures out what the issue is. I'm sure he will. He's a smart guy. And we know it's not a faulty brush because he, sent it off to somebody else who has used that type of brush before. And so it's good to rule that out, because every once in a while a dud will escape into the wild, and it's good to have folks help you to know that's not the case. All right, well, the lather looks great, and we've got tons of it. Oh, there's some elasticity right there. There we go. Fine is such a good soap. One of the things that I'm really enjoying about the boars is their ability to hold so much lather. I do have that B9A brush from Declaration Grooming. It's a Badger. It's very dense. And it just doesn't hold all this lather in there because there's not enough space between the bristles. But with a boar, you've got tons of space. It's awesome. All right, get my face wet one more time. All right. I believe even at my first austere August, I wanted to use this soap, Fine Accoutrements, Santal Absolut. But I got stranded at a relative's house. I thought I was going to be able to come back and get the soap in time for August, but I was not. And so that, man, I have been plagued with hairs just hanging around my eyeballs, messing with me here. Sorry. And so I had to go to the grocery store and get whatever I could, and I was glad to get a puck of Williams because that at least was better than like Cremo or something like that. Oh, and see, this soap, this brush is just terrific. Get a nice little kind of very soft massage feel. And this, look at this lather. It needs more water. It was so elastic. You saw how elastic it was. And it still needs more water. Boar brushes are so funky because they are so stiff when they're dry. I'm just putting the drops on the kind of the side of the tips. Just trying that method out. And see, look at all this lather we're generating. So yeah. I haven't used this brush in a while because I have been enjoying Badgers, and I brought a couple of new boar brushes into my rotation of boars, my borathon. And so the ones that had already had a bunch of uses kind of sat unused for a little while. Then I kind of moved locations, and this just wasn't kind of out in the front. It was in a tote, hidden away, and so I just didn't use it very much. So I'm glad that Mr. HD reminded me how good of a brush it was with just his questions about it. Look at that awesome lather. And that's a little bit too dry for my own preferences. All right. Yeah, this is better than the carve. The carve just wasn't quite the right. Gap is not what I'm looking for, because gap is just one of the measurements that tells you how aggressive or something about the blade. The Fat Boy, I was told, when it was made, the blades that were in public use were thicker. Very different than the ones we have today, and it was obviously made to use those blades. Notice, here's a little tip for you. If you've got rolls in your neck like I do right there, creases, try to keep your razor, give it a little bit of a tilt when you go near there. And don't hit it right at the parallel. Because then you'll go in, and I've had it happen so many times. You'll go down and in, and the bump might stop you. And then that will usually end up in a little bit of a cut. I have grumbled a little bit about the faucet that I have here, and indeed you guys know about it because it is so noisy. I'm adding some more water to this, so I believe 4 teaspoons plus a half, so 4.5 teaspoons now is the water that we've used for that 20-second load. But I was saying, you guys have heard the noisy faucet, but I tell you what, the water pressure at this location is very strong. Back in my other old house, it was quite weak. But right here, I've got this big 30-ounce stainless steel cup that I drink from. It fills it up. When I rarely use full power because it's just so much water, but it fills up that 30-ounce cup in no time at all. All right, so I basically added another teaspoon to what it was before. I think it was 3.5 before, and so now we've added 4.5 total teaspoons of water. A little bit slippery, more lather that's a little bit more slippery than it was before. Now with this brush, at this age, you do feel some of the ropiness or wiriness, but a very, very soft wiriness, which is why I started with saying ropey. You don't have that wall of badger feel that you have with a big old badger brush, but I am cool with that. And I'm very interested in getting my boar brushes. Oh, and see, this is comfortable. Very interested in getting my boar brushes with some uses on them, so I can start experiencing the joys and softness of a high use boar brush when all those tips have split. This is the second pass. I forgot about that. I should have been going cross grain here. I didn't pull out my little tank of water this time. Lately I've been taking a little container, like a food storage container, and putting it in my sink to hold water, and that way I could take a soapy brush, razor head, without having to use the tap. All right. Third pass. Shove the brush down a little bit to put some of the lather in between the bristles. Since we already scrubbed on that first pass, you don't need to do what I'm doing now, but I just always do it. You can just kind of paint it on and then you're ready to go. But I like to just experience the brush. Try to make those drops land in the sink sometimes. The 4 seems like it's doing a good job. It doesn't feel aggressive. There's definitely some blade feel, of course, but it's controlled and managed, and I'm happy and all that. And then we'll reverse direction on this part, the tricky. We'll see if the length of these hairs in this area are better than the carve of late. And there's nothing, that doesn't mean this is better than the carve. It just means it's a better shaver when you're dealing with the variables of my skin and my lather combinations and the age of this blade and all those kind of things. Looks like somebody's opening the garage door below. And there we go. Face feels great. And now it doesn't feel all moisturized and luxurious like the milk steak and the noble otter leave it. But it's a slicker shave, and that's what I like. Not great closeness on my neck here, so let us hit it again. Yeah, definitely took that extra pass there on my neck to, in a strategic way, with a slight against the grain edge to it, not full on against the grain, but kind of cross grain, but then a slight against the grain twist to it. Because those hairs, I don't know what they do in that area of my face. That maybe they lay close to the skin. I don't know what they do. All right, but a very presentable, basically any job out there with a normal scrutiny of one's appearance is not going to have a problem with this level of shave. And that is kind of my benchmark with when I will give up on this blade. And now, you know, a lawyer or something like that, or a model or something, is going to need a better shave than what this old blade is given me, but my modeling career is behind me. All right, so we have tons of lather, 2 or 3 passes, no problem. So it looks like my guess of about, did I say go 20 seconds? I think I did. So my guess of 15 probably would have worked out just fine too. And that's what I've been using with my badgers and stuff as well. I found that in many cases, this type of boar that's got so many bristles can be usually given the same amount of duration when you're talking about loading it from the soap. Oh, hey, I had a shave the other day. I think it was the last one. Maybe it was one before that. I was so tired. Prior to that, the 2 nights prior, I had gotten maybe 4 hours of sleep when you add both nights together. And so my brain was not firing on all cylinders. And so that's why it was so hard for me to search for words. So there we go. That's how I think and talk when I'm exhaustion level. All right, so yes, I don't think we added too much more water. The 4.5 teaspoons is what we added. 20 seconds of loading. And I can start putting gear away. Ooh, aftershave, here it is. I have got some more work to do tonight, and so I am going to smell good while doing it. put on something that I enjoy smelling on myself, which is Chiseled Face Midnight Stag, made by the folks at Groomatorium. If you hadn't heard about Chiseled Face making their new Silk Tallow soap base, I really enjoy it. Now, it requires more loading. I have consistently had to go back to that puck of soap to get more soap. So it needs more loading than my standard duration, but performance is wonderful. And the scents. Chiseled Face. Their tallow formula of old, before the silk tallow, wasn't spectacular. Got the job done. It was very nice. It was very slick. Just wasn't quite as good as, to me, Sterling, Fine Accoutrements, those guys. However, where they stunned me and where they attracted me to their brand was with bold scents like Gearhead, Midnight Stag, Birch Tar, just a Sherlock. How good is that, right? Such a huge collection of creative and imaginative scents that worked well. Ghost Town Barber's wonderful. So yeah, anyway. And now, with the addition of the silk tallow, they have a luxurious, creamy soap formulation that is top-notch, to rival, to match the awesomeness of their scent collection and that sort of thing. So I'm really happy that they came up with that. I'm also glad to be using this brush. I just remembered as I was dropping it on the towel. That's what it looks like afterwards. To point out the difference in the knot from this brush versus the B23 that I've had on this channel a lot lately, as I've tried to bring it up to the same usage count as brushes like this so I can compare them fairly. The bristles here, you can see when they come out from the center area, some of them, the ones around the outside, are purposefully angled out. And you get kind of some built-in splay with that. And I like that a lot. With the B23, the brush is, the core of the knot seems to be sunken more down into the socket. And so right where the knot comes out of the hole, you don't see them going off to the side immediately, because it's like they've gone up for a while. And so there's some strength in that. And it's not like there's a glue bump to push some, to angle some out to the side. And so it is keeping more backbone. And maybe that's part of the reason, is because this part of the shaft down here is being kept vertical because it's set deeper into the socket, or something like that, or it's set into the glue bump in a parallel fashion instead of a kind of a V shape that you can see with this knot. Just guessing here. All right, and my eyes are stinging a little bit from the Midnight Stag. It's got the menthol with it. I don't really care for that. However, I like the scent of the Midnight Stag so much. And I can't wait to do my work while I get to smell this. All right, guys. Well, there we go. I hope this one has some good info for you, help you out in some way. HD Shaves may have gotten his issue figured out already by now, but maybe there's something in here for him too. You guys take care. Have a good night. I wish you good things like Chiseled Face, Midnight Stag, if that's your joy, to smell like what you want. I wish that for you. Keep yourself safe during this time. And I'm starting to get a little drowsy, so I better go do my work before I fall asleep. All right, you guys take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.